Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You got Dank here, or Dan Kuzer, your host, and we got a special guest. Eileen is here to be with us tonight. Eileen is a co-producer of co-founder of the Empire Hempfest, and a Greek supporter of hemp and all the issues that we all believe in.
Yeah.
And it's always great to have you here.
Thank you, Dan.
How you been?
I've been so great.
Eileen's been traveling. She's back in the state again, and feel good to get back in Oregon again?
Feels great to be back here in Eugene, Springfield, and I went to the East Coast for a while and found out that everybody there is very excited about the hemp revolution that's happening in our country. Lots of hemp supporters in New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Vermont and Maine. People are just really catching on to this, and yeah, it's a...
I noticed you pronounce it New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
And that's how they pronounce it back
there?
there?
No, that's what I call it, New Hampshire.
The reason I wondered maybe that was actually authentic, you know. It's like I was in Louisiana and in Monroe, and they will straighten you out. It's not Monroe, it's Monroe. I wondered if maybe that was similar. But, well, anyway, great to have you back. And yeah, we're getting ready for a great summer. We've got less than 5 months till the Empire Hempfest.
Less than 5 months?
So, yes.
Wow,
yes,
the Empire Hempfest. It'll be it's the what? 14th?
The number. Well, yeah, actually, let's see. I think it's 14th. I forget. It started in 2003, but we didn't have one in 2004. So
right.
So you got your chapter year, and I forget which. But yeah, it's we've been in the park that we're in, or we've been there for 5 years.
Maury Jacobs Park.
And we're working on getting our permit now, and that's another story. But the big thing is, I wanted to announce is that the next steering meeting is next Sunday, which is March. My mind went blank. March
14th.
14th.
Wait.
Yes, 14th. No, 13th.
13th.
13th. Yeah, March 13th, Sunday at 1 o'clock, and send an email to dankbagman@hotmail.com, and I'll tell you where it is, and I'd love to have you there. We need more steering members. We need core members. We do really well as far as volunteers and actually enough people. We have enough people, but we need core members that are willing to help direct the other, like foreman type of thing, you know, that kind of thing, because we need people to show people where to go, what to do, because a lot of the volunteers are just there for a few hours, and they don't really, you know, you got to really tell them what to do, and we have to really watch what is being done, and so don't get in trouble with the Parks Department. But,
so if people are interested in being core members of the Empire Hempfest, they should email you at
email me at dankbagman, D-A-N-K, dankbagman@hotmail.com.
Hotmail.com.
You bet. So anyway, we got some stories of interest tonight. The first thing I want to talk about is the world famous cafe in Portland. Do you remember Madeline Martinez started the world famous cannabis cafe? Well, they're shutting it down. In fact, today is literally as we speak. Tonight's the last night.
Really?
Yeah.
And why?
Clean Air Act. That's one that's happening to the cannabis clubs all over Oregon. Is the Clean Air Act has shutting all the clubs down because you can't smoke inside, and patients can't go outside, at least in the winter. And so, yeah, it's really devastating. There's a great facility in Salem that we went to see, an Old Elks club, or some kind of a fraternal organization like that, big building, and it's a lounge. So it's a cannabis lounge. It is so cool, but they're having the same trouble. They're being told that they got to have they can only smoke outside.
Wow.
And they said, well, we have patients. A majority of us are patients. We can't smoke outside, you know, at least in the winter.
So people can't get together inside a building and use their medicine.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Wow.
In fact, yeah, and it calls it out here too. It says. Madeline Martinez, well, let me just read this part of this real quick. It says, the owner of the world famous cannabis cafe announced Monday that she will close her doors next week after another warning by public health officials that the establishment violates indoor air rules. And yeah, and so she doesn't want to. She's if I could try. Let's see the other story. It talks about she was facing $500. Yeah, here it is. She was $500 per violation fine is what they were forced
If she kept
facing
it open.
if she kept it open. So if she just
Wow.
couldn't afford it, And so she says that. She says the decision follows an unannounced visit last week by Eric Vinstrand, a Multnomah County Tobacco Program Specialist, to the Southeast Foster Road Cafe. Martinez said. Widerstrand pointed out ashtrays and remnants of smoked joints and reminded her that smoking is not allowed in the cafe under state law, she said. I told them they are infringing on my constitutional rights, said Martinez, whose patrons must bring their own marijuana to consume at the club. I have a right to gather peacefully. That is what I am exercising. They are very concerned about the toxicity of cannabis soak, which is ridiculous.
Brother.
Yeah. Well, it's like the warnings, they have about pregnant women and tobacco.
I know.
I mean, not tobacco,
marijuana.
Cannabis, yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they talk about warning, and they don't. There's nothing to back that up with.
Never has it hurt anyone.
Except can bigotry, and that.
Bigotry. Yeah. People that are afraid.
Yeah. Lawmakers expanded Oregon's Indoor Clean Air Act last year to prohibit the use of devices such as vaporizer pens and e-cigarettes in public places and workplaces. Marijuana was also added to the law, which initially targeted only tobacco. See, there for a while, we were getting away with that because it said tobacco and we weren't smoking tobacco.
Right.
But, of course, now the lawmakers corrected that problem.
Well, just remember, everybody, that marijuana has never hurt anyone.
That's right.
And if you're in a room with lots of smoke going on, marijuana smoke, that is, it's not going to harm you. And that's too bad that people have to make laws just because they're afraid.
Yes, and this is a great statement that was made by Linda Manning. She came to the Cannabis Cafe and she said, if you're in housing, you can't smoke in your house. You can't smoke outside. You can't smoke in your car. So this is a place where we could come.
Right.
Now Manning believes she and others will either have to break the law or go underground. It's sad that we have to hide when we're sick. That's good points,
Yeah.
Martinez believes the new regulations go against the will of Oregon voters who approved legalized marijuana. It just doesn't make any sense. I think that this is a real travesty to the people of Oregon, of the law. Why should they treat us like this? It's an obstacle. Many of these people don't even have a place to smoke, Martinez said. Cannabis Cafe will close March 8th, which is tomorrow. So tonight's the last thing, hoorah, I guess, and then it's closing tomorrow. So. But yeah, that's, and then there was another place up in Salem. We were, in fact, that's where we had John's memorial. It's called the Other Place, and I forget, it was in here somewhere talking about. But anyway, so yeah, they had to shut down already, and so I don't know if there's any solution or not. But I was thinking maybe if they agreed to have some kind of ventilation systems, super ventilation systems or something, other than that, I don't know. And another Oregon article. Now this is, and I think you're gonna, we're gonna. Dope Magazine's Portland event this weekend won't include marijuana. Dope Magazine. Now, how's that a name? Yeah. It just ticks me off. I mean, it's a great magazine. It really is. They have great articles. It's really well done. But Dope Magazine, I'm thinking, come on, people. I know, everybody's out looking for a decent, cool name, and we're running out of choices. But Dope Magazine. And I was on Facebook, and somebody was talking about Dope Magazine, and I wrote in, and I said, what a horrible name. And they wrote back and said, oh, no, dope has it's changed now. It's not, the word dope isn't considered like it used to be. It's got, So, well, perhaps, this is like dank, my nickname Dank. Somebody come up and said, do you remember when dank was a bad word? And I had forgotten about that, and that's true. You check a room, it's all kind of wet and it's dank.
Dank, so, yeah, but dank is a great word now.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know, but still, every time I see a Dope Magazine, I just hate it because I hate the word dope. For instance, that blankety blank, what's the name of Portland, the talk show, Lars Larson, he talks about, He talks so disrespectfully about the marijuana and patients especially. He just calls them dope smokers, you know.
Oh, man.
The dope smokers, smoking that dope.
Well,
you know?
those kind of people are the ones that really could use a nice joint because they're just afraid. And
yeah, oh yeah.
That's sad.
But anyway, Dope Magazine says for months, Dope Magazine billed its upcoming celebration of cannabis as a black tie affair, complete with a red carpet. Naturally, the guests would get a chance to sample some of the finest goods Oregon's newly legal industry has to offer. The celebration will go on as planned Saturday, but the promise of cannabis consumption, not so much. And as Oregon enters the era of legal marijuana, issues related to where people may light up remain complicated. Public consumption, for instance, is off limits. Lighting up in workplaces, like an event venue, also is prohibited due to the state's clean indoor air law. So is offering the cannabis when someone has paid to get into the event because the transaction falls outside of regulated marijuana sales. Dope Magazine, a lifestyle and culture publication dedicated to promoting pot, paid $60,000 to put on the event. Renting pure space in Northwest Portland with the understanding that its 600 or so guests would be allowed to snack on marijuana-infused edibles and dab concentrates, said Michael Fox, the company's state director for Oregon. But Dwayne Smith, president of the company that owns Pure Space, decided the rules around cannabis consumption were ambiguous. He said he worries that West Coast event productions would face fines for violating indoor air rules. He also worries that the event would be considered public, meaning no cannabis consumption is allowed. I think it's unclear, Smith said. If I knew it was legal, of course, they could do it. A spokesman for the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, which oversees recreational marijuana, said the dope event doesn't violate agency rules, which prohibit establishments with liquor licenses from allowing cannabis consumption because licensed establishments are considered public places. But added spokesman Mark Penninger, that doesn't necessarily mean it's okay to light up. So anyway, it goes on, and you talk about the Indoor Clean Air Act, and it was implemented in 2009. Lawmakers last year expanded to prohibit, which we already spoke about, expanded to include vaporizer pens, and and this what got me. He described the guest list as a who's who in the state's pot scene. And talking about the thing is, if they give out free tickets, then they could use it. But by selling tickets, then they can't use it. And they sold some tickets. And anyway, it's a who's who. So I think, yeah, right, who's who. I didn't get my invitation.
Yeah, really.
But anyway, well, great. I appreciate you coming in, Eileen. And unfortunately, we just got Eileen for the one segment tonight, but she's lighted up the place already.
Yeah,
so
we'll see you guys at the Empire Hempfest this summer.
You bet. And that's the 15th, 16th, and the 17th of July, the third weekend in July. Always the weekend after the Country Fair. Or the weekend before Lane County Fair.
That's right.
We're right in the middle. So
we'll be there.
You bet.
Keep up the good work.
You bet. You bet. Will do. And appreciate you being here. And we'll be back after our second half of the Eugene Cannabis TV show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the second half of the Eugene Cannabis TV show, episode 605, and got some really interesting story out of Colorado. Start out with, anyway, you got Dank Kuzer here, or Dank Bagman, or Dan Kuzer, depending on what you want to call me. I'll call anything but late for Din Din. This story is from the denver.cbslocal.com website, written by Melissa Garcia on the 4th of March this year. Man arrested for driving under the influence of pot, acquitted. A liquid man accused of driving under the influence of marijuana has been acquitted of charges. A blood test showed that Ralph Banks, 27, had well over the legal limit of THC in his system. The man's attorney, however, said that his client was perfectly capable of driving. The jury deliberated less than 30 minutes Friday at the Jefferson County Courthouse to come back with a verdict of not guilty. It's not like alcohol, said Banks' attorney Rob Corey. Marijuana is different. The states are not one size fits all. A Lakewood police officer pulled over Banks in March 2015 after seeing that the car he was driving had a headlight out. After Banks took a voluntary roadside test, the officer believed he was under the influence of cannabis. Banks was arrested and charged with the DUI. It was a nightmare, said Banks. It was the worst experience of my life. He also submitted to a blood test, which found the level of THC in his blood to be 7.9 nanograms per milliliter. The legal limit to drive is 5 nanograms per milliliter. Yet, after a full-day trial and multiple witnesses, including police officers, the jury found Banks not guilty. He's a responsible consumer, and I'm just glad that a jury of his peers in Jefferson County agreed that he was being responsible and agreed that he was not impaired, even to the slightest degree, said Corey. Corey called the verdict a victory, not just for his client, but for Colorado. Now, with this case, it's perfectly legal to get behind the wheel after consuming marijuana as long as you're not impaired, said Corey. And that's the key. You can do it if you're not impaired. If you're impaired, you do not get behind the wheel of a vehicle. In a statement, Jefferson County District Attorney Pete Weir told CBS-S4, "These are difficult cases to prosecute, but we continue to be concerned about the safety of the public. Our current law is not strong enough to effectively hold people accountable." A DA spokesman said that many marijuana DUI cases end up with a not guilty verdict. The spokesman said the reasons behind the issue were complex. So that's an interesting article, and of course, like I said, it's out of Colorado. That will definitely help Colorado state law. 5 nanograms seems to be one of the common figures that they use, and yet there's no as I understand it, there's no documentation really to show that 5 is a good number or that 10 is a good number. So, so anyway, that's really good news. And also, it might be said that this is a good case of jury nullification. You know, where that's something we need to talk about more on this show, is jury nullification. If you get pulled and called into a jury, whatever decision you make about a person guilty or not is up to you. You don't have to vote either way, any way people want you to. You can vote your own way, and you cannot be prosecuted for it. And then that includes, if the law is unjust, you can find the person not guilty. So anyway, and then as far as driving under the influence, that's another subject that we need to bring up in future shows. I've brought it up in the past. DRE. If you don't know what a DRE is, please, you need to get educated, because a drug RE is, DRE stands for Drug Recognition Expert. There's a program in the state of Oregon that if an officer takes a 40-hour class, at the completion of that, he becomes a DRE evaluator, and that means when he pulls you over or some other cop calls him to come to the site when he sees somebody that he thinks is impaired, he can bring in the DRE expert, and the DRE expert will evaluate you and determine whether you are intoxicated or not. And we had our friend Brian Michaels, attorney, on here on our show in the past, and we'll be having him again, that was telling us to, he said, this is a little poem to remember, is no to DRE, yes to P. And what he meant by that was that they will ask you, do you submit to a DRE evaluation? And that's just like saying, do you consent to having your car searched? And so you always say no. They may do it anyway, but you always say no, because as the lawyer told us, if you give him permission, then he cannot help you. But if you did not give him permission, he's got something to work with. So that's real important to know. So that, anyway, this next thing was interesting. This was off of a blog that was written about, it's called Trouble in Humboldt County, written by Ashley P. from Marijuana Writers, and it was on the expertjoints.com website, undated. Humboldt County, California, a rich history of cannabis cultivation is in trouble. he says, Humboldt County, California is a world of its own. Some call it hippie community, while others refer to it as the epicenter of grade A marijuana cultivation in the United States. Humboldt County, California has been producing top-of-the-line cannabis for many decades now. This area in Northern California was a refuge and a sense of new hope for the hundreds of hippies that flocked to this area during the 70s in the movement known as the Back to the Land movement. This is the time back in the 70s where many individuals migrated to this area to escape the conformity of society and to build their own communities that are self-sufficient, and that is just what they did. These individuals moved to this area in a time when many loggers were in the densely populated forest area of California. During this time, though, logging was not in its prime, and many of these loggers turned to growing marijuana as a substitute for sustaining their livelihoods. It is estimated that over 30,000 individuals within Humboldt County are involved in marijuana grow operations. The majority of the economy is sustained by these operations as well. Anybody and everybody that you can imagine or think of is involved in cannabis in this county. Humboldt County is also very well known for being part of the Emerald Triangle. The triangle refers to 3 counties in this region that are known for being the largest producing region for cannabis not only in the United States but in the world. The triangle consists of Humboldt County, Trinity County, and Mendocino County. The evolution of pot growing in this region started during the Summer of Love in the 1960s, and has done nothing but grow since the legalization of medical marijuana in the late 90s. Humboldt County in the Emerald Triangle is a very scarcely populated area amongst the breathtaking redwood forests. These cultivators and peaceful life-living individuals that make up for the economy in this area are facing some major troubles, and it's not the type of trouble you may be thinking. Humboldt County and the Emerald Triangle have seen some raids by the federal government as cannabis remains highly illegal according to the Controlled Substance Act. With the war on drugs in its heightened years during the 80s, there were many raids, but since the enactment of Proposition 215 in 1996, the number of raids in this area of the federal government has decreased substantially. The trouble these individuals in these communities are facing now, though, is due to large-scale marijuana legalization. The ganja that comes from the Emerald Triangle is of superb quality and is cultivated by master breeders and growers from the area. When you compare this quality of cannabis to what is being mass-produced, it makes what you find in dispensaries look like round, brown swag weed. This type of issue is one of the reasons why, when it comes to legalization, individuals should be able to cultivate their own cannabis, and the entire supply and demand should not be provided by mass-produced cannabis operations. The history of the Emerald Triangle is a major part of the cannabis culture and history in the United States. The individuals in this area are all for legalization, as they believe in human rights and the freedom surrounding this plant. However, there is a way that legalization must happen as not to affect the livelihood of the individuals who have been the backbone of cannabis in the United States for decades. So, yeah, I've actually been to Humboldt. I met a fellow truck driver in Spokane, Washington, and he gave me his information, and so the next time I was passing through, I actually stopped to see him in Garberville, California. And he took me to an actual Humboldt pot farm. It was an experience I will never forget. In fact, I was thinking tonight on the way in to do the show that's something that next time I'm out of material and need something to talk about, I'll talk about my Humboldt visit. That was a visit I will never forget. And anyway, I would like to tell that story on the show, so I'll do that one of these times. And the last story we have is was on the OregonLive.com by Noel Crombie, who writes a lot of the marijuana stories for the Oregonian, dated February 29th. Bill that aims to bring smaller medical marijuana producers into recreational market passes the Oregon Senate. The bill that would make it easier for smaller medical marijuana growers to enter the regulated recreational market cleared the Oregon Senate on Monday. Senate Bill 1598 passed in a 20-8 vote and now heads to the Oregon House. SB 1588 would allow certain growers to apply for a state recreational marijuana license without having to first obtain a land use compatibility statement. These statements are issued by local governments and confirm that a marijuana production site meets local zoning rules. Under current law, all marijuana producers applying for an Oregon Liquor Control Commission license must get a land use statement. The proposed legislation removes that requirement for small-scale marijuana growers located outside of city limits, provided they are registered with Oregon Health Authority before January 1st, 2015. The provision is intended to help bring smaller growers into the regulated recreational marijuana system through a so-called micro-canopy license, which would come with lower fees and fewer requirements. Senate Bill 1598 also adds medical and research marijuana grows as recognized farm crops, making them easier to locate in exclusive farm use areas and protecting them from lawsuits filed by neighbors over perceived nuisances like odor and noise. Recreational marijuana grow sites are already recognized as farm crops under state law. The proposed legislation also makes clear that local governments can impose reasonable time, place, and manner regulations on those marijuana operations. So the bill also, that's another thing, other things it does to it too, changes too. But anyway, so there has been some good stuff come out of Salem. I went up there 3 times myself just in this sort of session, to both for rallies and to speak at hearings. And so we've gotten some good things and some things that we still like to get changed, so we can be sure that next year they'll be back and we'll have to be fighting just like we did this year to keep what we do have. So anyway, come back and see us next week. We'll be here, and this is Dan, or Dank, with the Eugene Cannabis TV show. We'll see you.